Hey, everybody, Tim Harrison, Straight Up Mortgage Talk. And today, I want to go over a big question in a lot of potential buyers' minds and, even sellers. Should I sell now? So here it is. Should I buy when interest rates are so high? Taking it from somebody who bought a house when rates were 10 and 5/8 and they're around 7 right now, I can tell you, yeah, it makes sense if you're going to be in the house for the long term. And let me show you kind of my thought process. I have a finance degree. I've been in the mortgage business for 30 years. Been buying real estate for pretty much as long as that. Actually, before that, so a long time. And I can kind of tell you, it seems scary, but in the long run, it works out very well. And let me kind of show you why. So, first of all, it is rates aren't that high. I mean, if you look at the average of interest rates, they're just not that high. So, blue line is interest rates over 45 years. And if you look at that interest rate over 45 years, you're kind of talking about, hey, we're not that high as compared to, like, again, when I bought my house, 1988, right? 10 and 5/8. Look at what I bought it for. Price appreciation is this orange line. Big drop here during this recession, which was when loans were done for people who shouldn't have gotten loans, and they were really scary loans. There's been controls put on that now, where these subprime lenders were getting out there and offering like a 3% for 2 years, and then they would go adjustable, and sometimes jump as many as 6% in your interest rate. Hence, a lot of people just couldn't afford it and just let their house go because they could still rent fairly inexpensively. Not really the market now. You can't really rent inexpensively. And there's a huge group, and I'll show you in a couple slides here, that have way low interest rates. They're not going to let their houses go. So inventory is going to stay fairly low um, for the near future, from what I can tell. So again, if you look at it, people are going, oh, the Fed's going to put us in a recession, and so I'm going to be able to buy a house lower. The gray lines represent inflation. If you look at these, in a lot of these cases, actually 3 out of the 5 times, real estate values still actually went up during recessions. Only a couple have they come down, and the one most recent that's in people's memories is really because of the bad loans that were being done. People who could fog a mirror could get actually a mortgage. And that stuff is like gone, gone, gone. People are so well qualified now. People who bought houses have put a lot of money down in most cases. And so it's just a completely different market than that period of time. Kind of like to go over some inflation numbers. Here's the one number that doesn't have inflation in it, right? So this is an 45-year look at prices of milk and gas and interest rates. The only thing that's actually lower on average over the 45 years is actual interest rates. It's actually it's almost 2% lower than what the average 45 years. So that kind of gives you a much different perspective. Even gas is only up 11%. Even think about rents. This is like a thing that kind of brings us through. Right now in Los Angeles County, if you had rented a house, it'd be 599, 560 bucks or so back in 1977. That same house on average would be $2,693 now. I think it's a three, yeah. So $2,693. Well, remember, this is the average of what people are paying rents. People who've been in the homes for a long time. If you went out there to look to rent now, it'd actually be higher than that. So what's the difference between these people who purchased homes versus those renters in 1977? Guess what? The people who purchased homes, unless they took that money out, helped pay for their kids' college education, maybe buy other properties like I did, their house would actually be paid off. Their actual total expense now would only be taxes and insurance, which is very minimal. So think about that, locking out inflation. If you buy a place now and you're done in 30 years, you only have taxes and insurance, while rents continue to go up. I mean, just look at what the difference between 560 and 2693 is versus that person who purchased the house is now actually paid off and only paying taxes and insurance, which they're probably paying like $600-700 total a month. So just something to think about, okay? Um, so I have to look at my keyboard. So this is a slide I promised you, and that's basically 72% of current homeowners have a rate less than 4%, which means they're probably going to hold on to that house because they don't want to jump to the higher rates right now because their actual payment would go up. They might add on to their house. They might do a lot of things, but it's going to take a lot to pry them out of the house. 55% have an interest rate of 3.5% or lower. Now, do you think they all got that interest rate when they bought the house? Heck no, they didn't. In fact, like me, on 10 and 5/8, they might have refinanced 3 or 4 times to save money because they got a lower interest rate each time and it justified the cost. Uh, 34% have a rate of 3%. Think these people are going to want to sell their house and buy a new one real quick? Probably not until rates come down. So inventory is going to remain tight in my mind. Kind of a lot. That pandemic gave a lot of people low interest rates. Right here, Wall Street Journal, you don't have to listen to me. Wall Street Journal article, handcuff. People are going to stay, golden handcuff, going to stay in their houses and not want to sell them because interest rates are so low. There's the article. You can read it by Nicole Friedman. I'm sure you can find it, but it basically says, look, people are not going to want to leave their houses. In fact, some have such low interest rates on houses they own or rental properties, or they have it on the one they're potentially, maybe they're moving out of state or they're going to do something else. They're actually putting that house up for rent instead of selling it if they can't get their price. So that can reduces principal. This is what this says. 10% of the houses in Southern California went out the market because people could get good rents. And they're like, I won't sell now. So here's what I want to show you. There is more inventory now. Buyers with less down, and buyers have actually, it's not necessarily a buyer's market, but kind of on that border of a seller's and buyer's market, which means you have some power to negotiate. Versus the sellers lowering the price, which really doesn't do much for you, you could ask them to pay for a 2-1 buy down. What does that mean? Well, rates are kind of high and the payment's a little uncomfortable for us. I want you to go ahead and give me some money as a credit to me from the seller to help me pay for a 2-1 buy down. Again, these kinds of things were unheard of even 6 months ago, but they're in the market now, which puts you in a good spot to say, look, let's get the house and let's refinance later, because number one is getting the house you like. If there's actual inventory, you have a better chance of that happening. If there's not inventory, you're going to be, again, fighting with what happens, you think, when rates go down? All those millennials and all those other buyers that were thinking about moving, as soon the sellers are going to buy and trade down and trade up, you're going to have a lot more competition. Right now, you don't. You actually have some power. Not a lot, but some. You could ask them to pay for that 2-1 buy down. What does that mean? Hey, rates are 7%. I'm going to ask you to buy my rate down to 5% for the first year of my mortgage, meaning they're going to pay that differential between 5 and 7 for the first year. 2-1 buy down. The second year, they're going to pay down by 1% on the second year. So you're going to pay, for example, you have a 7% note, that's fixed, but you're going to have interest money given to you at close, and this is a lot of builders are doing this, to 2% by 2%. That means you're going to pay equivalent to a 5% payment for that first year on interest rate, 6% the second year, and then go to 7%. Now, what does this give you a chance to do? One, get the actual house, because again, that's number one, get the house you like in the location you like. Number two, it gives you time to maybe pay off that extra car, student loans, or other debts. Income's increasing. You're better positioned to handle that 7% in 2 years. But in all likelihood, you're going to have an opportunity to refinance to a lower rate within that, before the end of that 2 years. Can't guarantee that, but there's a good probability of that. And if it doesn't, you still know how to prepare yourself over the 2 years. But you got the house you wanted. You got the house of your dreams. You got the house in the location you wanted. So again, this is kind of why I'm an advocate of it. So what does that look like? I got the house now. I got a 6.5% interest rate, and now I'm going to refinance to 4% later. Well, yeah, the payment's a little higher now, but at least I got the right house. But I'm going to save potentially $909.36 there in the green if I can even drop it to 4%, which is not unlikely if you look at the number of times I've been able to refinance people like at least every 5 years to lower rates. So yeah, I'm going to be paying more now, but at least I got the house. And by the way, I'm paying some amortization during that time. Now, when we as a mortgage company, again, this is straight up mortgage talk, this is my educational series. When we do a loan for people, as soon as we close that, we put you on what's called Rate Watch. Within our pricing system, it actually allows us to search every day for lower rates on your particular mortgage and email us both when it makes sense. When basically the cost, which is again just added to the top of the loan, and it's usually about $3,500 to $4,000 on a no-point loan, makes sense to break even on the cost added within 12 to 24 months, you're automatically emailed and said, hey, you know what? You could save that $900 now. Time to talk to us. At least have a conversation. Why do I think it makes sense to buy? Kind of like whenever to get started. Remember, my first house was a 10 and 5/8. I paid $174,000 for it. It's worth about $1 million now. Again, 1988, took a long time, but that house that I bought for $174,000 at one time went to $120,000, 20% plus decrease in pricing. But I was still paying the mortgage down, and I'll show you that later. But why should you buy? Finance degree talking here. Look at the difference, 40 times the net worth of homeowners compared to renters. If you look at that bottom line, it hasn't really changed much. 2010 all the way to 2019. Remember, this is a Federal Reserve study done every 3 years. And think about this. Look at that bottom line. Renters' net worth really hasn't changed. But look at what's happened to the net worth of these homeowners. Again, 40 times more net worth than renters. And this is as 2019. The study is going to be done 2022. It's going to come out. And if you take even a 20% increase in values, which has happened since 2019, what you're going to see is that that net worth number on the top is going to be around $300,000, about $305,000. We had 20% right now. And guess what? With higher inflation and gas costs and stuff like that, you think the renters are going to move up? No, they're not. And that's why it's really important to think about buying, getting the right house, and thinking about the long term and refinancing later. Here's an example. We've had 20% increases, crazy increases. Let's say that values only went up 2%. Doesn't even have to go up 2%, but let's say that values go up 2% because, again, inventory is going to stay pretty tight because of those interest rates that people have right now. So if it only goes up by 2% on a $750,000 house, after 3 years, we're going to be looking at a value of a home at $795,000, just a 2% increase per year. So every time you make a mortgage payment, it's called amortization. Some goes to principal, some goes to interest. By the third year, I paid $24,550 off on this particular mortgage, which means I have that much equity automatically. So I would have to buy a house for $24,550 less expensive in the third year, or some years, after I purchased it, to be able to even keep up with what I would automatically be doing if I actually purchased a house and started paying a mortgage. Now, what does that mean total? Well, if I had just a 2% increase in value of the home, and my amortization loss, that means by the third year, I'm sitting at $70,456 in additional sort of loss because I didn't get that amortization and I didn't get that appreciation. Now, again, this is supposing a 2% appreciation. That's a pretty low number, and it's the amortization is what it is. You're paying off that amount of principal per day or per year. So again, why do you think there's such a huge discrepancy in net worth? Because even at a 2% increase in values and that amortization, me paying my principal balance down, I'm automatically adding net worth almost every year, for sure. We have some other stuff that while you're looking for houses and you're thinking about it, get yourself educated. I've done a lot of interviews with people that are, 30 years experience in escrow and title and appraisals and what are, just a glossary terms hard to understand. I give it sort of depth with explaining what it is, how it's used. A lot of stuff here that is after 30 years. I wrote a book like 15 years ago, and I said, I'm going to break this up into smaller pieces so people could listen to what's valuable to them at the time. And actually, I'm kind of proud of it. It's really something that's my educational series to share out there. And so I hope you can share this, listen to it, and get really prepared for what you're doing. Because again, if you look at the difference in net worth and you're picking a location for your family, it's super important. That's the I always have a horrible time with this, but that's your scan. You can go ahead and get that and be able to go right to it anytime you want. Couple things, if you're kind of looking at buying a house, but you're still thinking about this, man, make sure your credit is great. On the screen now is Carl, only guy I've trusted after 20 plus years. The first 10 years, I couldn't even find anybody any good. And he'll give you an honest price of what it can do to help fix your credit, how much it would cost just by seeing a copy of your credit report. Real world is that if you want the lowest interest rate, you have the highest credit scores, usually 740 plus, because that can be a difference of just $10,000 in upfront cost in either a higher interest rate or points to get that rate down because of the price hits that go on with lower FICO scores. It also sets you up to be able to use better programs. So right now, if you're saying, hey, I'm sitting on the sidelines, I'm gonna, interest rates are too high, can't afford the payment. Well, guess what? Work on your credit right now during this downtime because it's going to help you save money when you do that loan. No matter what, you want to get those credit scores up. This is us. Again, this is my educational series, Straight Up Mortgage Talk. This is my team here. If you have any questions, you want to give us a call, either Cody or Leslie or myself are all licensed loan officers, just to answer quick questions or whatnot. And again, we really want to be a resource for you. We're not trying to sell you on using, the HLC team at Cornerstone, although we would love it. Don't get me wrong, but we really want to be a resource. So again, Tim Harrison, Straight Up Mortgage Talk. I hope this kind of gives you a full picture. And this is coming from a guy who bought a house at 10 and 5/8. The values went down, still in the house, a lot of equity, and a very low payment. Even though I took money out of that to parlay into other purchases that have added more net worth because I have rental properties that have done the same thing for me. I learned from watching my buyers and my clients and the people with real estate were worth a lot. Poor kid, raised on food stamps, didn't know about this stuff. I looked at what my grandparents had done and how they had set up, in fact, helped me with the down payment on a house and such because of what they had gotten from buying homes. And I just have a passion for this as being one of the most important things you can do for your family for literally generations to come. Tim Harrison, Straight Up Mortgage Talk, here to help. Thanks.